everybody, it's Miss Marie, and this week for STEAM, for STEAM Thursday, I thought it'd be fun to learn a little bit about migration. That is a fancy science word that basically just means animals moving around, looking for food and maybe better environment to live in. And you'll be noticing it a lot lately. If you look outside, you'll see the birds are flying south, a lot of them. You'll see a lot less wild animals out. A lot of the squirrels and things are hibernating, another fancy science word. But some animals have migrated. They've gone to a better place to find food for the winter. So we are going to be reading this book by Gail Gibbons, one of my favorite nonfiction authors for children. And it's called Migration. And it's a brand new one that just came out. And it's by Holiday House. And I thought that we could read this today and learn a little bit about it, where all the animals are going. Migration means to travel to a new environment that will better meet an animal's needs. Let's get going. In the animal kingdom, some creatures are becoming restless. They are beginning to feel the need to move. Migration is about to begin. Different groups of insects, birds, and mammals, both land animals and underwater ones, will head off in different directions. They will leave their habitats, that means where they live. Animals migrate to try to reach climates that are better for them. Often animals move to mate and to raise their young in more suitable conditions. And here's all kinds of animals that are migrating. Dragonflies, African elephants, tuna fish, Arctic terns, ladybugs, and even penguins have to migrate. And here it tells you what a habitat is. It is where an animal lives. It is an environment that has everything an animal needs to survive, such as water, food, and for some, shelter. And climate is the normal weather in a region. Back and forth, these migrations go throughout the years according to seasonal changes. Each species knows what it needs to survive. An animal's needs depend on where on Earth it lives. Some animals will travel thousands of miles or kilometers to their final destinations. Others migrate short distances. And here we have some animals, again, that migrate. The common butterfly, the red admiral butterfly, the pink spotted hawk moth, robins, which I've seen in my yard, gazelles, pin-tailed ducks, Arctic terns, polar bears, and some sockeye salmon. And here is a little small picture of the Earth. And you can see we are over here somewhere in North America. Scientists and others try to understand how different animals know when to gather in groups to migrate. It's amazing how migrators remember the exact routes to take each year. And here they're showing you some of those migration routes. Like for the monarch butterflies, they go down to Mexico, and I think in the cold weather, and then in the summertime they come back up. And these are some sea turtles that migrate. All these animals migrate, and they always seem to know where to go. Some scientists believe that the magnetic pull, that means that it feels like a magnet inside the Earth, between the North and South poles helps animals migrate. They believe the bodies of some animals contain a mineral called magnetite. The magnetite tells the animals which way is north or south, so they know which way to go. So here's different animals moving, and it says some migrators watch for landmarks. They're flying low, these swans, tundra swans, so they can see things. Some navigate at night using the positions of the stars to help them, these are Canada geese. That's when you're going to see a lot of those around. And others notice seasonal changes caused by shifts in the sun's position in the sky. At different times of the year, the shifts make days become longer and shorter. And those are reindeer. They live up in the Arctic and the cold. It is hard to believe that tiny, delicate insects can fly long distances. Birds do this too. Insects and birds gather to groups of the same species to migrate. And here's all these different kinds of birds and insects that migrate. Small and large birds fill the skies. Many birds point their heads in the direction they will travel to tell others in the group which way to go. So they pick a leader that knows where to go. Often birds and bats migrate at night. Mallard ducks use the North Star and the patterns of the stars to guide them. Wow, that's pretty smart. Canada geese fly in a V-shaped formation because it makes flying easier. Ripples in the air from the V shape create an air path so the geese don't have to flap their wings so hard. We're going to do a little experiment about that later. So remember that about the V shape for the Canada geese. Sandhill cranes fly very high in the sky into upper air currents. They soar on thermal winds, so they don't need to flap their wings to fly as much because they're flying up so high. There's special wind up there. Arctic terns migrate farther than any other animal. They can fly from the North Pole to the South Pole and back. They follow the sun's path to stay warm. Wow. So they literally go to the ends of the earth to get warm. That's pretty impressive. Land animals migrate to better climates in search of food and to mate and raise their young. In Central Africa, there are mass migrations of animals seeking fresh grass, water, and a better climate. So here it's not the cold that is driving them to move. It is actually that they need more water or heat. The heat's too intense and then things aren't growing, so they need to move to a place where the grass is growing when there's more water. So it's not always cold that makes animals move. Caribou travel in huge herds. Some herds have more than 100,000 caribou. In the spring, they migrate north. If you watched Steam 2 weeks ago, we built a moose and we talked about the difference between caribou and moose. Elephants live in herds and migrate. Usually they travel from areas where water holes have filled or formed from recent rains. This also means there will be more food. That's right, so they're going to go somewhere where it's been raining. It's not as hot like that. Many animals migrate over land looking for just the right climate. A lot of migration goes on underwater. Some birds actually migrate by swimming through the ocean waters. In the winter, emperor penguins migrate to places where the ice is thick enough to support a large group gathering to have their young. So they need to go someplace where they get a lot of cold. And here's all different kinds of animals migrating. Sea turtles spend their lives in the ocean. A few weeks after mating, the female migrates to a beach to lay her eggs. Then she covers them with sand and hurries back to the ocean away from predators. So she leaves her eggs in the sand and they incubate in the sand. And that's why you should never disturb any sea turtles' eggs. They mark them off at the beach so you don't bother them. So she leaves them so that they'll be safe from predators that would be attracted to her. But they're still very vulnerable, right? Look at them leap and splash. Salmon come from the ocean, fighting their way up rivers and streams as water rushes toward them. They are migrating to their spawning grounds to produce their young. These salmon have to swim against the water. That's really hard, instead of flowing with the water, right? Some tuna migrate to find better feeding areas or to breed. Swordfish do this too. These are very large fish. They migrate looking for better food and better places to breed. Huge walruses live in the Arctic region. They migrate south in the fall to find foods such as snails and crabs. In the spring, they migrate north to give birth and raise their young. So again, probably looking for warmer water. Some sharks migrate too. Whale sharks are the world's biggest fish. They migrate to the best feeding areas to find safe places to give birth to their young. They swim about 7,000 miles a year. That's a lot. Gray whales make the longest migration of any mammal. They swim up to 12,000 miles during their journey. Because they are mammals, whales need air. They must surface to breathe oxygen through their blowholes. So different, huh? And then over here they're showing your migration paths for various fish and for these whales. The whales go right along here to warmer waters and then back. The biggest whale of all is the blue whale. It is the largest creature that has ever lived. It can be 100 feet long and weigh 180 tons. These whales migrate to warmer waters to breed. These whales, if you've ever been to the Natural History Museum in New York, they have a model of the blue whale, and it is tremendously large. People enjoy watching insects, butterflies, and birds flutter and fly as they migrate to new climates. Some people go to zoos where they learn about the migrators. Others go on whale watches. Back and forth, year after year, migrations keep animals on the go. It's just kind of fun to watch them. And here we go. Let's get going. Many animals have adapted to their climate and survive in all seasons, like the cottontail rabbit. They're out there, you'll still see them. An Arctic tern, because of its long migrations, could travel about 60 times around the earth during its lifetime. That's a lot of travel. Emperor penguins walk about 125 miles over ice to their nesting ground. Some reptiles and amphibians have short migrations to deposit their eggs in or close to the nearest body of water. So just a short trip. Some people help salmon by building salmon ladders that the fish use to go upstream. And here you can see that's a man-made ladder, and the fish use it and swim up it and sort of push themselves along. Some animals hibernate. Remember I said that word before, meaning they sleep motionless in winter in protected places until the climate warms up, and that is a brown bear hibernating underground. Zebras, wildebeests, and other wildlife in Africa migrate clockwise, means other way, in a giant circle. Their search for water and food takes them through the rainy periods and as the seasons change, so always looking for fresh grass and fresh water. Some people help feed migratory animals by growing plants, such as wildflowers that they need to survive. Butterflies especially need that. And because of global warming, some sea creatures are migrating closer to the poles where the seawater is colder. So their migration paths have changed as climate has changed. So we have to be careful and make sure they have enough food and leave them be and let them do their migrations. And that is the end of that story, that information book. On the back we have a blue whale with, it looks like a thought bubble, but I think it's air bubbles coming out of the blue whale blowhole there. So that was a really fun book. Like I said, she is my favorite author of nonfiction for children. Many, many wonderful books. And this one is just a new one that we just got at the library recently, and I couldn't wait to share it with you. So if you stick around in a few minutes, if you grab a piece of paper, construction paper, and a marker, and some scissors, and a fan, I'm going to show you an experiment that we're going to do. A fan, you need to have permission from your grown-up to use it. Or you could use a blow dryer, but also get permission from your parent or grown-up. And we're going to be using those things to show why birds migrate in a V shape, especially those Canada geese that we see around here a lot. Okay? Okay, so for this part of our experiment, you're just gonna need a piece of paper. I got some construction paper here. I picked blue because it looks like the sky. A marker, it can be any color marker. I've got a black one here, it doesn't have to be permanent. Some scissors, and you're going to need a fan, like this one, or a hair dryer. Oops, there it is. Fan, there it is. Or a hair dryer, so that you can create some wind. But remember to ask your adult for permission first. Okay, here. Okay. So first we're going to cut a strip of paper the long way. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so we have a strip of paper. And just for fun, I am going to draw a flock of birds. And you can see my birds are very, very simple birds. I'm going to draw a flock of birds because we're going to be using the fan and this flock to simulate, oops, this bird is very big. There we go. To simulate why birds fly in a V pattern. Because if you remember from our book, it said that they fly in a V pattern to make it easier to save energy because they have a long way to go. They got to save energy or else they have to keep going down looking for food, which is always, of course, dangerous because of predators and slows them down. And the danger is that they won't find enough food. So they've got to get warmer weather before they run out of food. Okay, so now I've got my flock of birds on a piece of paper, and I'm going to turn on the fan. Remember, ask an adult for help with this. You can probably hear it over here. It's pretty windy. All right, and so I'm going to hold this like this and try it, first holding it flat, like what it would be like to keep to keep the birds in a long straight formation instead of a V. And you can see that it just keeps wanting to go into a V. It keeps pushing it back this way. It's really hard to hold it in place with just one hand. And I can see like it's the wind just kind of like, whoa, and it flew away. So yeah, so it's definitely a little tricky to do it that way. So let's try folding that paper in half and making a V shape. You see I have this V shape now? Look how birds really fly in a V shape. There's my V. You see it? Oh, the wind is blowing. And I'm gonna just put one finger right here in the middle of the V and hold it up. And I can see how much easier it is. The wind is going right around that V shape. I only need one finger. I don't need a hand or two hands to do that. I just need one finger. I have to move it closer to the wind because it's actually, the wind's breaking so much around the V that it's not staying in place. There we go. So it is so much easier than trying to fly this way, which I have to use my whole hand or two hands even to hold it into place. So you can see that with the wind, which the birds have to fly into, it makes a lot of sense for them to fly in this V formation so that the wind breaks around their V and makes it easier for them. They conserve energy, they fly a lot longer without stopping for food. And that is that. So simple experiment. Make sure you ask first before you use the fan or a hairdryer to make the wind. And there is my birds in a V. Pretty cool. Science is fun. All right, I'll see you soon. Hopefully you'll see some birds out there. And maybe keep your bird feeders filled because birds are going to be hungry. And a lot of the birds that go to your bird feeder this time of year are actually migrating birds. They're trying to get someplace warmer. They just need to stop off for a little snack. Ours is always full and it's always hopping out there. So it's the bird cafe out in front of our house. All right, I'll see you soon.